Hello, plant friends. Welcome back for another episode. I hope you guys all are staying happy and healthy. In this episode, we are going to talk about baby variegated monstera. The plant buying, selling, trading environment has changed a lot this year compared to last year. Plants are getting smaller, or at least people are buying smaller versions of plants, and they're doing that, in order to save money. So in this episode, I am going to talk to you guys about some small baby plants that I have, and also, what I look for, what my thoughts are about caring for them and buying them. Okay. So these are, one leaf cuttings. This one has two nodes or growing points. This one has also, this one also has basically two nodes. So I guess let's talk about these guys together. So obviously they have one leaf. The leaves look pretty wretched. I would not be surprised if the leaves fell off or got yellow and basically fell off or just died. So when I'm buying something like these or looking about, thinking about these, the most important thing is nodes, right? So nodes are, they're like lives, right? Like if you're playing a video game, you want more lives, especially if you suck, right? Like if you are not good at that video game, you want more lives. If you are very good, maybe you don't want as many lives, right? So for these cuttings like these, every node is sort of a lifeline. So basically, the more nodes that you can get, the better your chances are that the cutting is going to do well. This one has no roots, right? An unrooted cutting. This one has an aerial root right here that I put in water, and it's starting to get some water roots, right? The thing is that when I see aerial roots, a lot of people think that that's considered like a rooted cutting. I don't consider aerial roots a rooted cutting. Aerial roots do not do well when you put them in soil, right? Most aerial roots in most soil compositions will just rot off. So I don't consider aerial roots soil roots. So therefore, I don't consider this, if you took out these water roots, I guess, a rooted cutting. These new roots are coming in the water is a very good sign. That means that the plant is probably going to do really, really well, and that I'm expecting more and more water roots to come out of here. Um, this new growth thing here, um, it's fine. I mostly just ignore it till the roots are well established. So when we're talking about priority of what I think about, roots are first, right? So if the plant doesn't have roots, you want it to root. That's like the most important thing you should focus on. You don't care about the leaves, right? Like you have some new growth, sure, that's fine. But don't have any new growth, that's fine too. Right? So when you're rooting, focus on the roots. Once the plant, has good roots, then I focus on new growth, right? Then it's like, okay, if the plant is doing well, you'll see some new growth here or there over some time. And then when you're focusing on the new growth, just know that the leaves that you currently already have is it's probably not going to do that well. So I'm actually surprised this leaf is still here, as is this leaf. They've been hanging around, but I expect them both to die pretty shortly. So for this one, this one, ugh, like I don't really I would not purchase something like this unless I got it at a very good price. Um, there's really no roots coming out or any signs of new roots, and the leaf is drying out. This guy is much more positive about. This guy already has some good water root growth. So this guy I would buy. Like I would be fine if someone bought something like this. And then so for this guy, I would, as I'm currently I'm keeping it in water to promote more root growth. And then once I am done with that, I'll put, once it has a lot more roots, I'll put this guy in either moss or soil. All right, so this is going to be my next specimen we're going to talk about. So this guy had some roots that sort of like went down like this, so I just placed them sideways. This new bud, what I can say about it, or this new leaf, is that it's both a blessing and a curse. It's both good news and bad news. The good news is that when there's new growth like this, it's telling me that the roots down here that I can't see are doing well, right? That the roots are doing well in this environment, in this potting mixture, or it's just moss, but in this substrate, and also with my my watering schedule. So, anyways, the roots are doing good or well. The roots are doing well. The bad news is that it seems like this new growth is getting all white, which is not good. Um, that basically means that the plant is investing its energy and making this leaf, and this leaf is not going to make energy for the plant in return. So basically, you're in a net energy deficit. I'm probably going to have to just like snip this one off. Ugh. Yeah, so let me snip it off. Once I snip it and this bud dries, and this part kind of like dries off, that means there's less real estate or less area or space where new buds can come out of this plant. But either way, if I just let the plant keep growing white leaves like this, it'll just kind of die anyway. So yeah, I'm just gonna cut it off and just like cross my fingers and hope it does well. And I think it will. A question that some people might have is like, well, Jimmy, why don't you just like let it grow this leaf and maybe another leaf, and it'll like change, it'll get greener and stuff. That is a possibility. I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking that this thing is just too white, that there's really no chance that the future leaves are going to be greener. So that's one. And then two is, the longer I wait, the more energy the plant is putting into this new growth, and that's taking away energy from the plant. All right, so I cut it off already. Rough. So when you're buying a stem cutting or a stem like this, I want you guys to notice that the ends are both really dry. So that means that when you're buying a cutting and it's like this long, right, and the ends are both dry, think about how much good tissue or living tissue or active plant tissue you actually have, right? So if you're buying a cutting that's like this, you may only be buying like this much of viable active tissue, right? As the ends start to dry up, you may not have as much of a viable specimen as you think, right? So just know that like the areas around the ends are dried and they're not really that good at doing much or contributing much to your plant. So that's why when you're buying a cutting, the longer it is or the bigger it is, the better. Also, these ends are very, very dry already, but if they weren't dry yet, they would be prone to some root rot, right, before they dry. So, or stem rot, right? So you can imagine that if you're buying a stem like this, and the tips are both not dried yet, think that like you might get some rot that injures them, that makes your plant viability smaller, and then the tips have to dry. So then like you can imagine that you end up with very very a very very small segment of viable good plant tissue or stem. Why did I have this guy in moss? I think I was potting some other things, and I was too lazy to keep this plant in water any longer. So the plant had some roots, but not as much roots as I felt comfortable putting into soil. So this guy went to moss, and I had some spare moss. All right, so that's gonna be that. Okay, so I think this guy is probably a good one to talk about next. This one, when it was in water, had a lot more roots, so I put this guy in my substrate instead of moss, right? So this soil substrate composition, 75, like 3/4 perlite and some soil. Two good leaves. Yeah, I'm actually very, very happy with the variegation of the leaves. The leaves look really, really good. Good amount of green for more energy production, good amount of white for more aesthetic appeal. I don't know what else. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this guy except that I'm very happy with how he or she it is doing. I'll probably put this up for sale sometime. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really, really good one. The leaves mean that the roots are doing well, and yeah, this is gonna do really well, and it's gonna go to a good home. So, all right. Okay. Um, this guy. This one I have shown before in my Monstera propagation series. For those who remember that series, these were two plants. One plant I had to chop because all the leaves were just white, so I had to try again. So for this guy, it seems like this was the first leaf down here. This is the second leaf with a lot of green, and this is the newest leaf with a very good variegation pattern. So I'm very, very happy with this one. I got them, they were already rooted, but their stems were bad or their leaves were bad or something. I had to cut them off significantly or cut them down significantly. Yeah, so they look a little funky. They definitely had, more aesthetically pleasing days. The interesting thing is that the little guy here without any leaves, the one that I cut, I would say I cut about 3 months ago, is starting to have this little tiny bud, but it's a little tiny bud, and unfortunately, the bud is all white, um, which is a bummer. Yeah, the bud is completely white. So for this guy, I'll also have to like nip the bud so that nip the bud again. I think this is like my third time cutting back buds that were all white on this particular specimen. Uh, okay. Yeah, the thing is that like every single time you cut back a bud or a stem or whatever that's all white, the plant has to spend energy repairing that area. It has to spend energy, getting a new bud elsewhere, and then you kind of have to like cross your fingers that the new bud elsewhere is less white. Okay, so I really don't know if I covered many good topics on this episode. I sort of just talked. Hope you found it enjoyable, if not useful. And until next time, happy planting.